Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian.
And I'm Ethan.
And we have, what is this, like the first Brawlmachine game we've done in like 2 months?
Something like that.
Yep, so this will be some trolls going into some post-CID Retribution.
Yes. So this week I'm trying out some Thyron posted just to get a feel for how he is and really see if his feat is like the meat blender I think it is and that people have shown. So like I know it's a meat blender feat, I just want to experience it firsthand.
Yeah, it's really similar to like Madrak 2.
It's a better version of Madrak 2's feat.
Similar.
Similar as in better. So I'm playing in Shadows again. With a Fane Knight Guardian, Manticore, Moros, a Mage Hunter Assassin, a max unit of Infiltrators with no UA, and the Spears of Scyrah. And then my sideboard is an Arcanist, a Lice Healer, a Void Archon, and a Soulless Void Tracer. And basically the list, I took a bunch of Reach dudes, I took a bunch of melee infantry, and I got the Assassin for 4-inch melee. And the goal is just trying to leverage the feat in Fury to be able to chew through whatever I need to, especially in a post-CID world where the Manticore is just amazing.
Yeah, he's pretty bonkers. For my list, I decided to put Gunnbjorn 2 in Kriel company, and the list has a Trollkin Runebearer as the requisition. The rest of my battle group just has Dozer and Smigg and an Impaler. It seems like the go-to battle group for him, at least at Brawlmachine points. And then I have General Thunderstone Brug that's going to be supporting a min unit of Pyg Bushwhackers with their officer. And then I've got a Trollkin Barrage team to round out the rest of the list. And then for my sideboard, I ended up putting in Leadfoot and Treads, a Bogtrog Misspeaker, Troll Whelps, and a Swamp Gobber Bellows crew. And most of the sideboard is just to kind of monkey around on scenario a bit. But the list itself is tight enough to where it's really hard to kind of migrate things from the main board to the sideboard without taking away a lot of effectiveness. But this list is all about the ranged game. I have a little bit of close combat business with Dozer and Smigg, but that's really about it. The Bushwhackers, I feel like, are a really nice piece for Brawlmachine. They're a small unit that has not just a 4-inch AoE that they bring with them, but their guns can get pretty nasty with what is that thing where you can re-roll your missed
Combined Arms.
Combined Arms, that's what it is. And then Brug just can bring up give them a bunch more utility and also bring some really cool things to some of the other models that are shooting and staying still. Since I've got so many far threat ranges, he can definitely get a lot of use out of Deadly Precision.
So I won the role to go first, and I opted to go first because I wanted to be able to get up the board before Brian can just set the line of, like, he's got all these high explosive AoEs. Dozer and Smeg is pseudo high explosive because they get fully boosted blast damage, and like that's not good for all my Arm 11 dudes. So Thyron's just being really aggressive. Turn 1. I don't even think I put out Fury on anything because I wanted to keep the higher def. Moros just runs, and I'm going to be using this forest that Brian gave me on this side to hide my Infiltrators, which are proxied by Mage Hunter Strike Force because we couldn't find the Assassins, just to at least keep them safe turn 1, and then maybe I'll be able to run through the woods, engage turn 2, or at least just jam up the board to maybe be able to like squeak out scenario. And then I'm just keeping the Shadows back for some shield guards.
So with Ethan getting the turn to go first, I kind of got put into a really awkward position in terms of choosing sides. The forest is not really great for me because it means that he can hide a bunch of his units behind it, but I really didn't want to give Thyron a trench or a wall. The wall would be fine, I think, because sometimes it's better when I miss with certain models, and on feet turn for Gunnbjorn, it's not such a big deal if you miss, but that trench would be really not super great for me. It's, you know, it's a 3x4 area where blasts need to land in it in order to do anything. So I have to work around the forest, but it means that I can kind of jockey for a decent position in the game here. I need to make sure that the scenario doesn't get too far away from me. This is Syzygy, I think the third or fourth. I think it's the third mission pack mission in the Brawlmachine set. But I have a flag of my own to score in my back zone, which my Runebearer is going to stay up on most of the game here. And with that, it means that I still need to be able to get things into the middle of into that middle zone. I don't have many. I have one opportunity to score it right between, I guess, two if you count Gunnbjorn. But the Trollkin Barrage team probably isn't going to be getting very close to that area. They're going to want to try and stay back a little further. And this is a good long first turn because I've got so many guns that can do so many things here. So I decide to enact the first little business here by trampling up Dozer and Smigg, and I believe I took a shot at the Manticore.
Yeah, I forgot he had dual attack, so I didn't stay out of trample shoot range. I just stayed out of walk shoot.
Yep, and I was really honing down on this thing because I feel like that the Manticore can be really dangerous, especially with that D3 gun. There was probably maybe a better play over here to shoot Moros and try and drift onto some of these Infiltrators instead, but I opted not to do that so much, and then my pygmies just kind of get up into the trench here and just exist. I think Brug put up his +2 movement thing, so that could get the Trollkin Barrage team up a little further. There you go.
So I shield guarded one of the shots, and you can still see the boxes on the Manticore. Like, it's down to 4 boxes after bottom of 1. Like, that's not good.
And I think you were vengeancing your Spears of Scyrah, which are being played as the Risivas right now because my spears aren't assembled yet. But I think one of my AoEs might have clipped them, and I might have missed it.
One of them shield guarded it. They shield guarded the first shot in the Manticore, and then you just, like, rip damage with everything else. Mm-hmm. And I think Gunny walked up because he has a POW 12 armor-piercing gun for some reason with Far Strike, and he popped a shot at it, and that really hurt. So now I'm just trying to measure out my threats, and I'm like, okay, this isn't good. My heavy hitter's almost gone. Like, he's going to die next turn before he really does anything. And I'm like, can I get Moros up in the biz? And I'm like, I see a play where I'm like, can I sidestep to Gunnbjorn, who's camping 2?
Yeah, 1 or 2 back there.
And he's camping 1, I think. And I'm like, I think I can do this. Like, if I feat, I have Field Marshal sidestep. The Manticore goes up. I allocated him full, and he actually rolls 3 shots.
Yeah, I was totally expecting you only get 1 here, just because that would be the bananas rate.
Mm-hmm. So I missed the first shot, boosted the second one, boosted damage, and then boost to hit, and I only hit 1 of them, but it did okay. Like, did about 4 or 5 boxes to him. Thyron goes, and now the problem is to get my feet up there where I need it. I got to move up pretty aggressively, and unfortunately, I move base to base with the Manticore. So now the spears are going up. One of them has to run, and now this first one charges in under feet. I have takedown from the theme benefit on a POW 11 Weapon Master, so it's basically like I rolled a hit. Do I roll a 5? If yes, remove the model, and then I keep moving.
Yeah, the takedown really does kind of hurt these guys a little bit with me having, 8 models that could get tough rolls that could slow you down, but having your theme benefits working double time for you over here is doing well.
Mm-hmm. And I'm able to killing spree up to his caster. I hit, and then I roll trip once for damage.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is...
That was the thing I needed right there, was for you to flop that roll.
Yep. So Moros goes. He had the pop fleet to get the distance. And he charged. He hits the Axer, does okay damage.
This is the Impaler, Ethan.
I don't care. They all look the same to me. I sidestep to his caster. Get 3 dice to hit. 2 dice damage. Got him down to 5 boxes. And I have to buy an attack. It hits. And then he transfers it.
Yep, saved my focus for that one and launched it over at the Impaler.
Yep. If the spear hadn't rolled trip once for damage, like, I feel like I could have got him. But now I'm just in defensive mode, so I'm like, okay, Thyron's camping 1, but he's base to base with a jack, so it doesn't matter. I'm def 17 against shooting. Like if he shoots the Manticore, I'm in trouble. So I'm just trying to get the Infiltrators up there to try and jam and maybe engage some stuff that might want to shoot him. And I move the Fane Guardian up just to be within 3, so I have a shield guard. And then I opt to run the Assassin to the middle flag.
So I escaped defeat right there. I think that's one of the more difficult things about playing against Retribution is just the threat ranges are pretty intense. And I needed to try and not give up scenario, but position myself in a way where it gave Ethan an opportunity to try and take me out. Thankfully, things didn't go that way, so now I've got to try and kind of unjam some of the pieces in here. There are definitely ways I could just start taking a bunch of free strikes, but with Gunnbjorn so low on health and my Impaler so low as well, I want to try and make sure I have all the tools available to me that I need. And I realize it's not something that I do often because typically my light war beasts either die or they never get into a position where they need to do it, but they have regeneration. So I want to make sure that when I'm kind of calculating my fury for this turn, that I kind of factor that in because I think I need to get his spirit back up. Gunnbjorn does end up walking away from Moros to eat a free strike, and it's a ton of damage that gets shifted off over to Dozer. So we slide him out to just above this flag here so I can start shooting some things. And the spells that I ended up throwing out this turn, I don't really think I put anything out. I did the open fire deal and then the double tap for Dozer and Smigg. And then I feat this turn, which I didn't fish out my feat token because that's going to be really important to what I want to try and do here. And then I believe this was taking a shot into the Manticore because I didn't feel like I could get... If I unloaded the shot into Thyron, then it would have just gotten shield guarded away. But, you know, as this turn plays out, I'm like, this was probably not the smartest thing in the world because there was a good chance I would have killed that Manticore.
Yep, but you left it on 1 instead, so now there's still a beacon next to Thyron.
Exactly. So I get very lucky, no thanks to myself. And now I'm moving up the Barrage team, and I aim with one of them so that Brug can deadly precision him. And I figure the best way for me to go about this is to have the aimed one shoot the Manticore, and then the 2 other ones combine to shoot the Manticore as well, so that I can make sure I get a decent shot on Thyron. So the one that aimed with deadly precision ends up taking out the Manticore, of course, and does a ton of damage to Thyron after he uses focus to shunt it. And now it's just the 2 trolls that combined end up taking a shot at him and take him off the table. So game 1 goes to trolls, which leaves Ethan in an interesting position for getting turn 1 again. But for sideboard for me, I really should have put in the Bogtrog Misspeaker, but I just didn't. Like, it's tough to kind of shift the points around. I think I was just in the mode of, like, I'm going to play this list as it is. And I figured the blasts didn't really need to have Eyeless Sight.
The blasts actually help you if they scatter because, like, I'll space out so, like, you won't clip them, but you can't stop AoE 3s or 4s from drifting and catching multiples. Like, it just doesn't work that way. And then for me, I opted not to sideboard anything because I needed all the shield guards, I needed the Infiltrators, and I needed stuff that could maybe jam. Because, like, if he gets to shoot me with Dozer and Smigg, with his armor-piercing gun, like, things are just not going to go well. And I need to be able to, like, threaten the assassination. So I just opted to stay with what I had. So I opted to go first again because I really do not want him going up the board. Like, and then Brian gave me this side again, so I'm like, okay, I can kind of do the same thing as last time, but this time I put Storm Rager up on
The
Thyron.
Oh, on Thyron. Sorry.
I put it on the Assassin game 1 because I was like, okay, I want to be able to have a Storm Rager, Mage Hunter, Assassin go in on feet. But then it's like, well, if I don't have Storm Rager on myself, like, I just kind of die, and the Moros falls off his base.
Yeah, poor Moros.
And then Storm Rager on me means the Barrage team can't CRA me, so like that helps, and then it kind of helps against the armor piercing gun, because like I'm on a medium base, so I can't really hide in this list, and that's the problem against the dedicated gun line. Like I may be def 15 up to 17 with blade shield, but like he doesn't need to hit me, and I think that's actually what killed me last game. Like you did a 2-man CRA, missed, and then the blast damage killed me, so I couldn't even shield guard it away.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't blast, it was full force.
Mm-hmm. Full force all day.
And then kind of like last game, just moving up my shield guards.
So going into game 2, I think I've learned a little bit more about last game. Often I don't play gun lines. It's just not, and if I do, it's usually a little bit more close range gun lines and not so much these really, really long downtown ones. So I'm trying to kind of get the go through the motions here and learn kind of the style, right? So it's really just me trying to leverage the blasts to take out some of his key pieces. I think that there's a lot of tools that I have in this list that can really benefit me. With Ethan's low arm value dudes with high defense, so I can try and start to miss them a bit. So I think I'm not sure what's taken me so long in my turn 1 here. I think it's just trying to figure out what I'm doing with what here. I think it was mostly getting Explosivo out on the pygmies, or the pig. They're not pygmies. They're just pigs. But Brug ends up running up here and giving everyone the fast move business. And now I'm not you're trying to figure threat ranges out too much here, but I do want to try and make sure that most of my army stays out of getting Moros right away. So we stay back and just try and take some shots with, I think maybe the Mortar takes a shot here, and uses Moros to try and scatter some things around. But maybe that isn't what happened here. No, it is, because I scattered off and then took out a...
No, I think you did the arcane precision.
Yeah.
So you aimed, and then you hit him, and then I shield guarded it.
Yep, there we go. So that's what it was. Sorry, the game's blending a little bit together. That's the rough thing with these Brawlmachine games, is that you play 3 of them, and then they're all very similar, but there's always these small nuances that you can't quite remember.
Spoilers.
Whatever. So now we've got Dozer running up. I had to make sure that he could actually fit where he was here. I believe this was a trample move for me. And now we get my using Moros as a scatter beacon. And I roll in a really good direction. Well, I thought it was a good direction, and then we had to like figure it out real quick. I think I also put up his lucky shot thing to make sure that I could re-roll the direction and distance, and it takes us a hot minute here to figure out how far this is going. But I only end up clipping one of those infiltrators, so better than nothing. But I could have had a better time with it. The Barrage team decides to go up and follow suit as well, with the range 16 and the POW 14 guns, 12 guns. I can't remember which one it is, but I got 3 chances to try and get some good scatters on these infiltrators, and that ends up taking out 3 of them straight up, because these are all high explosive as well. I think I was only able to get 2 shots into those, but we got rid of quite a few of those guys.
Yeah, leaving Moros as a beacon for the AoEs was a very big mistake. I just wanted to be able to get him up the board. I knew he had access to arcane precision, so like I wanted to be up as far as I could and then just threaten the zone, but unfortunately that cost me 3 to 4 mage hunters just because drifts. And I could have prevented that just by having Moros farther away. But I didn't want to give up Moros in the middle and just get dead. So I'm trying to measure out what I can do this turn. I'm just out of range of the shadows going forward and then like daisy chaining through, and I think I'm trying to measure what I want to do with stuff. So Manticore goes up. I'm just trying to clear some dudes, clear lane, Number of shots again, he gets 3.
It's just the value Manticore today.
I know I've been super greedy and allocating him focus, which is always risky when you don't have Arcanists. So I boost a shot into the Mortar. It toughs. I shoot it again, kill it.
Yep, and that's sad. The Mortar, it has potential in this list to do a lot of work for just being like a derpy weapon that gets stapled to the Pygs unit.
A derpy
derpy
Mortar
AoE
that's
4,
high explosive AoE 4. And I'm just debating where to put the last shot. Like I kind of want to go for Brug, but I don't think I can kill him with one shot, especially since I need the hit. So I'm like, okay, do I go for a Pyg?
I believe Brug has Sucker anyways.
Oh. Well, then I opt to just go for the UA, who does not tough. And I did keep my Mage Hunter Assassin far back last turn just because I wanted to be able to score the flags. I realized I'm pretty solo light. The Fane Guardian has to follow around Thyron all game. So like I realized first game, like he won't ever be on the flag. So I have to basically give up the Mage Hunter Assassin dream of feat. But I have to keep it so I can score my flag and actually be scenario relevant. Because now I have Thyron camping a couple. I got 1 shield guard for sure with the Fane Guardian who will run. And then I'm tucked behind cover. So I'm def 15 up to 19 up to 21. But of course, like against his feet, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just get to scatter. And for what it's worth, Brug doesn't have Sucker. I just thought he did for some reason.
So now here I'm like, okay, do I just throw Moros away? I gave him 1 for fleet. So he pops fleet and runs. I opt to just engage a couple of the Barrage team. And then, because I don't really see anything on that side that can kill Moros once he's engaged. So here I'm just doing running infiltrators, try and jam, and I'm trying to basically present my army. He can try and kill it all, but like he's not getting to my flag, and then I can try and push back the zone next turn with my feet if I can get like a shadows in there, and just try and play a scenario.
So yeah, jamming me is no bueno for this army. Like there are some things I can do to try and tease it apart, but I need to get really lucky with a lot of things in order for this to happen. So Ethan's he's made a good assumption that it's difficult for me to do this and still try to remain scenario relevant. The pygmies have attacks and everything, but they need like 9s or 10s to hit those Mage Hunters with Vet Leader from Brug. So I decide to kind of take a look at some of my options here, and I think we end up starting with one of the...
You open fire Dozer and Smigg.
Yeah, I open fired them just so I could try and hit some of these, because I had to double check to make sure that he didn't have like min range or anything like that. Because this is probably the first time in the history of my life I've put Dozer and Smigg on the table. But I end up clearing out a couple, 1 or 2 of the Mage Hunters with the open fire thing from Gunnbjorn, or his little platform, or his order. Or no, his order is the one that gives him an extra rate of fire, but open fire lets him tap them right away. So that got taken care of, and now I'm activating Dozer and Smigg, I believe. Oh no, that was my open fire token. Sorry, there's, like I said, lots going on between these extra games. So I decide to move Gunnbjorn to the wall to make sure that I'm kind of a little bit better protected against some of Ethan's abilities to kind of dig me out. So I end up taking a shot at the Manticore, and I believe that ends up getting shield guarded to one of the spears, so I wipe that off the table. So Vengeance has been triggered on them, but it's just one less shield guard that I've got to deal with, because under feet, every single one of those pieces is really damaging to my army. It's almost like the spears can almost do more work than the Manticore can.
Yes, into all your infantry.
Yep. So next up, I believe I'm just taking a bunch of swings with I think this is me just taking swings with the pigs, because with Vet Leader on Brug, there's a chance that I can hit some of these. It's not a great chance, but it's something nonetheless. And then I've got, I think now Brug might be shooting into some of them with his little gunfighter ability.
You're trying to see if the Impaler could shoot Moros, but he's not in range to aim and stealth.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't aim in stealth, and there's just no way I'm gonna hit him in combat. So I think this is where the Impaler probably goes off to start beating on things.
I think you give it a shot because now, like, if you miss, like, nothing happens. It's not like you hit your own dude.
Yeah.
And at best, you hit me, you crit smite me out of melee, and then you shoot me to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably more likely what I was going for, was just a Hail Mary. So now I think the pygmies are going, or the pigs. Oh, I keep calling them pygmies, but the pigs are going. I should just call them bushwhackers. But they're just taking their pot shots at some of these mage hunters, and a couple of them end up connecting and taking out a mage hunter infiltrator. So that's more than what I expected from them. But it means that I've got some things in the zone, and there's less that's jamming me up. So now I've got a little bit more leeway with some of the other pieces I have. And now I think it's the Barrage team that's coming up, and one of them I think was unengaged. So I was able to punch with one and then shoot with a couple others.
Yep, you were able to shoot with one, and I engaged the other two, and it popped the Manticore for some damage.
Yep, and the punch that I got in on Moros, I think it might have done like 2 damage or something like that. It wasn't really great, but one of them in combat did connect. So now Dozer and Smigg gets to go up, and I'm gonna try and do some scatters to try and take out some of these other pieces that Ethan's got in the middle of the zone here. My time is winding down, but I feel like I needed to get him in there so that we could at least contest the zone, and I want to try and make sure that I can get some more damage out here. So for whatever reason, I missed the Manticore, and that scatters off, and I think it clips Thyron and the Manticore.
Yep, and your blast damage is boosted, so it's just like...
Yeah, it's more efficient for him to miss than it is to hit.
So we both were scoring 1 point because he killed all the Mauls contesting his flag. I Vengeance up, and now I have to decide on focus.
There was a slight battery die issue there, but we actually didn't miss any of the game.
Okay, so basically you missed me doing all the math. I had to drop Storm Rager, put up Onslaught, cycle Fury to the Manticore, and then allocate it 2. So Thyron's sitting naked, but I'm staying behind cover. I got 1 shield guard, and now the Manticore can charge over the wall thanks to Onslaught. And with Fury, he's casually punching at a POW 20.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Those Manticores, they have gotten really, really good after CID. Like, I think that it really isn't... I know there's probably tons of ret players out there who've got like 4 or 5 of these things, and I don't think that's a bad number to own right now.
No, like I got a few lists floating around. I have 3 of them. So I feat with Thyron, so I'm getting boosted to hit attack, boosted melee. I'm trying to sidestep around him, but then like Brian shows me the proxy base is actually facing directly forward, so I can't really sidestep past him without taking a free strike. So I opt to just stay with him, keep punching. One of my arms was crippled, so it did okay damage. Now I'm just buying attacks with a good hand, and then basically I just put him down at dice +1.
Yeah, it was pretty... He wasn't long for this world for sure.
Dice +1 because you didn't have a stone, so like maybe if you had a stone it would have survived, but you went more offensive with this list.
Yeah, the thing is with this list particularly is like the stone would have to come in for the pigs, like the bushwhackers would probably be coming out, and that just makes it feel like I'm paying points for things that don't really do anything. Like I could survive, sure, but I think the pygmies are better.
So Moros has parry, so he walked around behind the dudes to engage more of them, and they just took a couple punches. He's out of control, like, forever, but I'm okay with that, because it's like, I can't get him back in control. Like, I got to worry about getting popped by an armor-piercing gun.
And against trolls, like, Moros doesn't really need the focus. He just gets to fight a couple times, and that's enough at Brawlmachine. Like, you don't need a pile of focus for him to do what you need to do into this list.
So he hits one, kills it, sidesteps over... Or he didn't kill it, took a second attack, hit, killed it, and sidestepped to contest the flag. So now I believe he's also engaging the Runebearer. So I got Moros dug pretty deep, and I'm just trying to decide what to do with the Infiltrators. So I have a plan to get the Shadow member that charged up to try and basically kill Brian's entire back line. So the Infiltrators are going. The first one hits, does not break armor.
Yeah, I know, a pygmy.
So it has to take a second attack, hits, kills. And I'm not even rolling the third dice to hit, hits, kills. And then now
Yeah, essentially that clears the zone up for you. So now you're gonna try and get this this Spear of Scyrah back into the last of my ranks back here on the flag.
Power 11 Weapmaster on the charge with takedown. And now I'm just killing spraying through 3 dice to hit. I'm just killing pigs to make sure, because the pigs are auto kills, whereas the Barrage team I have to roll damage. So I figured I'd do the easy kills first. Now going for the Barrage team, Power 11 Weapmaster. Kills. And I believe I'm able to... Or I decide to not killing spree into reach rate or into stealth range of Gunny, but I take a smack at the Impaler and do no damage. And then that's my turn. So I believe I score 3. Or 2. So I only scored 2 because I don't have a model on the middle flag.
Yep. So I have a lot of work to do and not a whole lot of things to do it with. I've got a Runebearer, an Impaler, and a Gunnbjorn. And Ethan still has a lot of the big threats in his army. Like, I've kind of run out of options. So I think what I'm ending up doing here is just trying to go for a style play of, can I do any damage to Thyron, is kind of what I'm working with here. The Runebearer can't really do much to Moros. And my Impaler, sure, I might be able to like kill a spear. I don't think he will get Moros easily though, so I end up walking away from him, or I end up walking away from the spear, and I take some damage from it, but it's not a ton. Like, Ethan rolled pretty abysmal on that one.
Yeah, that was really bad.
So this ends up getting me out of engagement range on that Infiltrator, and my hope here is to Hail Mary a crit smite on Thyron and slam him away from cover. So I, of course, get my 3 4s, but that's 1 away from what I needed to hit him. I needed a 13 instead of a 12.
Yeah, because I'm def 21 behind the rock. So
Yep, so that would have missed by 1.
Because, yeah, you're at 6.
We're at 6, yep.
Yep, so you need a... No, that missed by a lot more. You needed a 15.
Oh, for whatever reason, I thought it was a 13 that I needed to hit you.
It would have been a 13 if you aimed.
Yeah. At any rate, I don't end up getting there, and I'm not able to contest enough things to stop Ethan from scoring out on me. So we go into game 3 now, but now this is where I think my list might be able to gain some ground again, because I've got turn 1 for the first time, and with my threat ranges on the guns, I think I'm pretty well suited to do well in this one.
Yeah, and knowing Brian's going to take first turn, I opt to, again, not sideboard or anything, because I need the volume of dudes. Like, he has the answers to my list, but I need him to waste the time trying to kill them all and hope for good drifts, because, like, that's the coin flip of drifts. If they go well for him, I'm screwed. If they don't, then my mouths are alive and he's wasted the clock on it.
So we didn't switch sides at all. I think Ethan really appreciated the forest, and maybe at this point in the game, you're probably just a little too lethargic to actually move to the other side of the table.
Well, I mean, the other side is one giant open shooting gallery. Like, if I take your side, I got nothing.
Yeah, I can
like,
just
there's
shoot the
no
world.
defense over there against your AoEs. At least here, there's a forest.
Yeah, and you'll get that cover from the obstruction. So essentially, I'm running everything I've got up here. And I have the Runebearer just walk in Harmonious Gunnbjorn. And when I do that, I'm like, well, I guess I really didn't need to do that all that much. I think I might have put something on somebody and then charged.
So my turn 1, my deployment's pretty much the same as it always has been, but now Moros is more to the middle. And here, like, I believe I have to sit for a little while, because I know me and Brian talked in between the games, and I'm like, okay, he's let me abuse this forest for 2 games. I do not foresee him letting me abuse it for a 3rd time, especially now that he went first. I'm like, if I run behind the woods, what is to stop a pig from running to engage, and then a rate of fire 3 effectively Dozer and Smigg wipes my whole unit by shooting his own dudes. So I opt to just do the easy stuff first, Thyron puts up Storm Rager on himself, just like the other game, just to try and be safe turn 1. And he charges in a way that would get him behind the rock. Basically, he charged the Barrage team that's up behind the wall, and then thanks to reach, he was able to hug it wide to get cover. And then we're just looking for a blast key because I want to keep... I'm trying to tuck the Fane Guardian behind the rock with him, but not close enough where he would take blast damage. And I'm also running the Manticore up, but I don't want the Manticore to get hit and then blast damage hits Thyron. So I'm just opting like, okay, run this max distance. It's tucked behind the rock like a little bit, so maybe if he's super far wide, he won't get it. And here's where I'm doing the Infiltrators of like, do I just run behind the forest and get murdered with no way to stop it? And I'm like, there's nowhere else for him to go, so it's like, okay, I just gotta hope some of them live, and I run a couple forward just to try and limit the paths he can take with the pigs, and then just trying to hide behind the woods, because if I stay too far behind the woods, I won't be able to run and engage. And then if I can't do that, I have to run past the woods and then get shot and then just die. So Moros is going to crisscross basically, and I don't believe I allocated him an extra focus for fleet, which I meant to, but I realized I didn't. And then I'm just moving up the shadows to stay engaged and keeping the assassin back.
So going into turn 2, I've got a ton of stuff that I can do now since we've kind of closed the gap quite a bit. My first kind of order of business here is that I don't want the middle to get overwhelmed too much, and I am really worried about the Manticore. So I check to see if a blast weapon hits the Manticore, will I be able to catch the Infiltrator that's next to it and just be able to get value out of that? And then we determine that it is just barely in on a 4-inch AoE, because I think that's most of what my guns are, except for actually none of them. Well, I guess the Barrage team are all AoE 3s, but they become 4 and 5. So Ethan did like talk about the idea of me running my pygmies jeepers, my bushwhackers in to engage these guys and then just start taking pot shots with guns. Now that would have been really nice on the first couple games where Ethan had kept more of his things back, if I would have recognized that path of play. But with this one, what I wanted to try and do was something a little different and have the pigs go in and actually try to be active. So they have the gist is that I'm going to get Explosivo on them, and then there's going to be a couple that can walk into the woods and be able to see, and then start taking some shots with their guns into those Infiltrators with Vet Leader from Brug and Explosivo. I should be able to get like a couple, and it's just depends on whether I want to combine or not. So I end up shooting or using Gunnbjorn to pop a shot with Dozer and Smigg at something, and it scatters off and ends up not doing any damage to anything that it ends up clipping. I'm not even quite sure where it like scattered off to. It might have been on a spear or something like that, because it looks like you've got your vengeance token out on them, so I must have hit it and not killed it.
Gunny shot the Manticore, which I shield guarded to that one with the vengeance token, and I shield guarded to the back one just to kill one farther back.
Gotcha. So now the Impaler's going, and I decide to do some damage with that in the or to the Manticore, or maybe that was Gunnbjorn's shot. I'm not 100% sure who made that one.
Gunny got shield guarded, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might have just been the Impaler. It looks like the Impaler's got focus on him, so he must have, or Fury on him, so he must have far struck and then taken a shot at the Manticore and did some work.
And I believe he actually crit smited them into the rock, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, I think so too. So now the Bushwhackers are going up. I can do a lot of work with them in the middle and try and get these other two to do some things and still have a nice firing beacon. I end up, I don't think I do it quite yet, but I end up turning this one here to make sure that I get a better defense bonus against Dozer and Smig's shots, so that'll be more likely for Dozer to miss. So I take some shots into the Infiltrators. I think I combined this one, and I end up getting 3 of them off of the Explosivo and the original shot, so that seems pretty good for me. I feel like did some good work with just these 2 pygmies, or 2 pigs right away. Next up, I took some shots into the Infiltrator that was in the zone with me, so now those 2 jamming Infiltrators are gone, and then the rest take some shots into the Manticore with him being knocked down. They do a little bit of work, but not enough to make me feel like the Manticore is going to come off this turn. The Mortar ends up shooting into the pig that's in the forest and scatters in a good direction, and I think takes off 1 or 2 Infiltrators. Maybe it doesn't break on one of them or something.
No, it auto kills the Infiltrators.
Yeah, that's right, because it's high explosive. So now Dozer and Smigg gets to go, and I feel like enough of those Infiltrators are gone to where I really don't need to be spending a lot of time lobbing AoEs at them with him. So now we're checking to see if the Manticore is going to be able to claim cover from Dozer and Smigg based on where I've put him. I think what we ultimately ended up deciding is that he doesn't. It was really, really close, but was almost too close to tell.
Mm-hmm. Then, oh yeah, I guess I wasn't you didn't crit smite me. Because my defense mattered.
Yeah, so I must have just hit you. So I end up missing and scattering off, which is still good for me because I think we're still clipping the Manticore here. And it doesn't do a ton of work to him, but it does take out the spear easy peasy. So now my second shot, I think I'm going back into the Manticore and scattering again. This time I scatter backwards into the rock, so nothing done there. But feel like I've done a lot of work this turn.
So most of the Infiltrators died, which was unfortunate, but there wasn't really much I could do to stop that from happening. At least, like, it could have been worse, and we'll talk about that at the end. So I do my Vengeance move up, and now I'm just like, I'm in the game plan of like, okay, can I recreate last game? Can Moros run and engage 2 Barrage team members over the wall? One of them's too far away, so I'm like, okay, I can run up with fleet or without fleet and engage one of them, and I'm tucked behind the wall, and I'm like, okay, then I can push from the side. I'm checking, can the Manticore charge Dozer and Smigg without clipping the wall? Because then I wouldn't have to put up Onslaught. And that would be kind of nice. And then, because like I'm still in the pre-measuring phase of like, what am I allocating? And now here, because Brian put a pig into the forest, I can actually get the Mage Hunter Assassin to charge 10 inches, get within 3 for the woods, and then actually do the killing spree from him to try and clear the middle. And then that leaves the Shadow member as a backup. So like I feel like I can clear the middle again, make a lane for the Manticore. The Manticore is kind of beat up, but I'm like, okay, with Fury, you might be able to do it again.
Yeah, he only needs. They went up to Mat 7, right? So he only needs 5s to hit Dozer, so it's not bad.
No, and under feet. So we had to check the feet. So models activating in his control get the additional dice. So Thyron actually had to back up to get the Mage Hunter Assassin in feet to get the additional dice because I did not want it missing. And then here I'm still tucking the wall, but you could see the laser. Like if he hugs down basically past his flag, I won't get cover. But like the Barrage team up on top, I would. And then it's go time after I put Fury on the Manticore again. So now the Assassin's going through. I'm rolling off screen, but basically
she doesn't need much. I think it was if you rolled all 1s, they might live, something like that.
Yep, because she's a POW 9 Weapon Master and they're arm 12. Mm-hmm. So like I need a 5 to hit. Or they're def 13.
They're def 13, yep.
So I'm Mat 7, so I need a 6 to hit and then a 4 to kill on 3 dice. So it's like just tiptoeing through the meadows here. Because killing spree feet with 4-inch melee takedown dudes that ignore tough and have Weapon Master decap are pretty good. And I'm just going through, killing. And now here I'm starting the killing spree forward to make sure I'm not blocking the Manticore's range. Go through kill. And now I'm like, okay, can I take a smack on Dozer and Smigg? I hit even over the wall. And then I blow up damage.
A truckload of damage on him.
Like I did 10 damage thanks to decap.
Yep.
Which was really nice. And now The Manticore, I'm just trying to hug it again so he doesn't get the wall. So he charges for 1. Hits. And then puts him down. And then I actually have a focus to spare, so I heal his shield for 5. So that was fun. And now the assassins are just doing what they did last game, run to engage because they're just bodies. And now this spear member just kind of runs forward to contest his flag. And then Moros does the run trick. And then I'm just hoping Thyron can survive camping 1 with Storm Rager and a shield guard next to him. And I believe you just keep playing, and we don't do a turn transition here.
I guess so. Maybe I just was, yeah.
You were just like, let's keep playing.
Yeah, because this was, I think what ended up happening was like after, I felt like the first turn was a good, like put me in a good position, but then Thyron's feat just kind of gets at you and wiped out a lot of my army. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to forego the transition and we'll play this out to see if I can kind of salvage this, because I don't really have a whole lot going on in the middle of the table anymore. I ended up even moving my Runebearer off the flag to go up and contest the zone, and Gunnbjorn and the Impaler are engaged in some way, shape, or form, and when I ended up backing a lot of the Barrage team out to try and get shots on Thyron, most of them got lost to free strikes. I was just hoping for good hits or something. So they end up coming out and trying to clear off the Impaler, which they end up doing, which was nice. I got one shot with one of the Barrage team that ended up drifting and taking out a couple of those, and then I think the other one I tried to put into Thyron.
I think you shot your own models, like, because I was probably so close. Yeah. Like, you shot your Impaler and you moved your Runebearer up to shoot it, so like the explosive would catch me and just auto kill me. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you cleared dudes without even making an attack roll against me, which was not fun.
Yeah, it worked out well for me, and I think I even worried about the trench a little bit, but I ended up landing the blast right into the trench, so it wasn't a big deal or anything. Mm-hmm. So this, I believe, was the Impaler just, like, shooting or popping a spear off at the Manticore, and this is the one where I had crit smite it and just pushed it back a little bit, but didn't do a ton of work to it. Gunnbjorn ended up shooting it as well, but again, didn't do enough to really like flatline it or anything. I think it was really just this turn was like, can I try and do something to help kind of like at least not roll over in the middle of the game here, because you've lost your big unit outside of one dude, but like everything else in your army is still there, and all it really should take is like a single Mage Hunter to take Gunnbjorn down. So now I think we're at the point where we're on your turn, and your Manticore ends up coming into the Impaler.
Yep. So went up, just punched the Impaler a couple times. I believe you took out his Cortex so he couldn't have focus.
Yeah.
And I moved my dude back to the flag because I wasn't scoring it. Thyron moved up to the flag, so I'll score that because I cleared the zone. And now I'm charging in the Mage Hunter Assassin into Gunny. I hit, and then like he takes feedback damage through the beast just because I rolled so well and it was so like close to dead. Moros walks over, punches a dude, sidesteps to engage Gunny, punches Gunny, and then I end my turn scoring the flag, the zone, my flag with your caster engaged by 2 models.
Yep. So that ends up rolling it for or calling it quits for the trolls. We ended up losing out on that one. So I did feel like I had a good chance going into game 3, especially after watching all of that stuff go down. But again, it was just, if I don't deal with those big mean pieces, then those are the things that get into my army that I can't deal with. It's like the Infiltrators I shouldn't have been so afraid of, because once they do come in and crash with the front line, it's really easy for me to get those gone on the rebound. But when Moros or the Manticore comes in, if I lose Dozer and Smigg, that's really my only chance to try and deal with those. So I think a lot of this game was really me learning how to target prioritize with a gun line like this. I don't have that melee backup to just be there as my I'd call it my oh shit button. But I think that Gunnbjorn in general is, or General Gunnbjorn, right? I think he's like Brigadier General or something like that. But
He's gunny too.
He is a strong warlock in Brawlmachine. I think that he's got a lot of great tricks that really lend itself to being good in this format. And when you look at the two lists on paper without, I guess digging too much into what Thyron's doing, it feels like Gunnbjorn might have a slight upper hand in this one. If only I just target prioritize.
I know, I'm air quoting slight. Like when we rolled up the matchup, I was like, we just both brought a list, and you're like, or actually like, I was trying to leave, and you're like, you know what? Make a brawl list. We'll play a brawl game before you go. And I was like, I want to go home. And you're like, no.
You didn't say
make
anything about wanting to go home.
I told you. I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, have a good night. I'll see you next week.
You come here, and you're like, I want to play at least 2 games. I drive an hour to get here, Brian.
I say I'm fine playing 1 game.
No, you say you're fine, but you've got that look on your face that's like, it's not really that fine.
I mean, it kind of is. Like, I don't value my time as highly as I think you do.
I value your time, Ethan. But anyways, we got this brawl game in, and you thought you were just going to get smoked.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I saw that it was gunny, I'm like, oh, boy. All the AoEs, all the high explosive, all the explosivo. Like, I think, like, the only, like you said, the target prioritizing, like, game 2 and 3, you put Dozer and Smigg in charge range of a Manticore.
Yeah, and that was not smart.
And, like, you could have just held him back, and then, like, I was terrified all game of you just putting Explosivo on Dozer and Smigg, shooting your own dude to kill my stuff, and then because of how Explosivo works, if you kill a model with the AoE, even with just blast damage, that model explodes.
Yeah, they just
like
popcorn out.
It would literally just wipe all my infiltrators behind the woods, or once I went up to like try and contest, like it would just literally explode my army. Because I don't think the pigs are more of a liability to you. Like, the Mortar's cool. It does a lot of stuff into me. But the problem is, they were beacons for my feet every single game. Like,
yeah, they let you, the way that they were positioned, I ended up setting them up in a way that let you go through the army and clear any frontline jam and then get to the pieces that I didn't want you to get to.
Yeah, like, basically they were just stepping stones for my infantry to basically daisy chain through and get to your back line.
Yeah, there might have been some benefit to actually utilizing the sideboard a little bit to pull out the pigs and the doofus, the officer and mortar, and then plugging in a lot of those solos, like having Leadfoot and Treads to kind of extend threats a little bit. And then you also get that weird interaction of Brug and Leadfoot being in the list together, and not that that really matters rules wise. I think it's like Brug is kind of mad at Leadfoot and Treads for stealing his tank. I think that's the Riot Quest fluff.
I'm not up to date with pretty much any of the Riot Quest fluff.
It's the one thing that because I was just curious about it, but I think Leadfoot and Treads is the Leadfoot stole the tank.
He did steal the tank. I just don't know who he stole it from.
I think it's Brug's. But they both, I'd be losing out on the fun shooting because I really wanted to like the Bushwhackers, and I think they're really good in this format, and I think they're also decent with Gunnbjorn as just a unit that can take some nice big shots. I mean, when you get into 75, though, like the first thing you windmill slam into a Gunnbjorn list are 3 Barrage teams.
Oh, definitely. Like, they are built for his feet, and my God, like, they're a nightmare. Like, if you're playing, like, low to medium arm infantry, like, that feat just wipes them all. Like,
I was like slightly surprised, ever so slightly surprised, that Vengeance of Dunia didn't make them a rec option.
No,
I'm just, like I said, slightly surprised.
I would have like been on the Sid farm raging inherently. Like, it's okay for some units to be free. Like, there's that threshold of like 7-point units that are free, and like, I'll argue forever initiates shouldn't be free, but
yeah, initiates are like where that bar should be stopping, as far as like they're on the backside of shouldn't be free. I really like the idea of mortar, like weapon crews being free, or artillery being free, because those are things that it doesn't really feel great when you pay points for them, unless it's like a Dragon's Breath rocket, which you usually don't pay points for anyways. But I'm not advocating that the Barrage team should have been a rec option. No. I was just shocked that they weren't because of the initiates and them being an option. But that's Faithful Masses has its own issues, and
there's no world where Barrage teams would ever be free.
No, they would never be free.
Like, they're just so ridiculously good.
They are. I think that oftentimes you'll see some troll players talking about them and saying that like one's good, two's better, but three is maybe too much. And I'm like, that's three POW 16 AoE 5s.
Yeah,
Like that's perfect, and they're great for the points. They have decent survivability, and when you combine that with Gunnbjorn, where you can just slam this POW 16 AoE 5 plate that you could bring up to POW 18 if you ended up putting Brug on them for the deadly precision, it just gets really, really gross.
yeah, and like they just clear infantry. There's so much. I know we're drifting off topic here, like we usually do, but like they just accumulate. There's been a lot of anti-infantry tech the last few SIDs. Like you saw Thyrons. Like my God, that feat was just ball busting into single wound infantry, and even some of your medium based infantry. Like you killed most of my army pre-feat. It just took one model to get there.
Exactly, yeah.
Like Thyron doesn't protect his army at all. Like they die on the approach, but all it takes is one reach model or one Mage Hunter Assassin to get there, and it's just a daisy chain of blending through your army.
Yeah, it's kind of like a zoomed in Doom Reaver thing where like it only takes one unit of Doom Reavers to destroy someone's plans, but with this it's one Mage Hunter Assassin, one Weapon Master thing. Like Thyron I feel like is quite a powerful warcaster post CID for Retribution. I think that a lot of people probably didn't really think there were I'm sorry, I'm going to start that over. I don't think a lot of Retribution players really appreciated where their CID ended up, but they've got enough to make it so that you have a few more options with casters, although you still kind of like run a little low on options with themes.
No, actually, I'd argue the CID has opened up 3 of the themes. Like,
I guess, yeah. Well, Alara going into, what was it? Defenders or Forges?
She's in both.
Yeah, I know that she got implanted into one where like she actually could gain some benefit now to where it's like you don't have to have Assyria to make Sentinels good.
But the problem is Legions is still in this weird spot. Like Forges got no buffs in the SID, but the Jacks got better.
Yeah.
So that makes Forges better. Mm-hmm. And like Valkyr, we'll do a different video about her, but like she's pretty versatile enough where she makes those themes good. But Defenders is in a good spot again. Like the infantry, I'm super happy with how the infantry turned out. Shadows got even better. Like Rat's best theme, in my opinion, did not need a CID to get better. Yeah. But like that's the world we live in.
And that was one of the big buffs to the House Guard theme at Defenders, right? Is the Thanes got you get 2 Thanes for 1 rec option.
Well, yeah, but nobody really took the Thanes anyway.
I guess I'm just thinking about worlds where like the House Guard Halberdiers exist, but I don't think they do.
That world hasn't existed in several years.
I know, it's been a long time.
I haven't seen House Guard units on the table since Alara 2 came out.
I think if there were anything that a rep player could complain about, it would be something like that.
Yeah, riflemen are always like the #1 complaint.
But I also think that's kind of like, that's where the game is right now anyways. Like cheap infantry that has middling stats just is not really finding a good foothold in the game right now. You have to do something really intense on one end or the other of offensive or defensive to be considered, viable in the game right now, at least on a competitive or functional scale. So you're thinking like Temple Flame Guard, not super putting up the numbers in games. I would almost argue that if it weren't that steelheads were cheap, they would probably be fitting into this category too, where the riflemen and the halberdiers themselves, outside of lists that can really buff them to put them on the other side of offensive or defensive, probably don't have much of a place. But then pikemen too, you can't throw a beach ball into a Khador Facebook group and not hit someone who really wants pikemen to be better, and I think that's where the House Guard are falling to.
Yeah, and like the other infantry just got buffed in the CID, so like there's no incentive to look at the House Guard. Like the Ryovast Defenders, they got really overtuned with Dying Breath.
Yeah.
Or Last Word, but now like Dying Breath's okay on them. The other dudes, I can't even think of their name.
House Eloweir Swordsman.
Yep, the Swordsmen are okay. Like you can build a pretty defensive list with them. The Wardens, I'm not super stoked about, but we'll see how like they turn out, because I don't think they hit the...
I don't think they've hit War Room just yet. I think Falseer and a Turnus or whatever then Jack's name is.
Yeah, they just hit it in the Death Archon. And based on that, you know when we're recording this. Like, they just came out this week.
Exactly, yeah. We've lifted the veil behind our recording schedule, so this will be out in like 3 weeks from now, and people will be like, why are these guys doing this CID garbage?
Well, I mean, the CID's over. It's just we don't know what the final rules are until they actually get released.
No. Maybe in a month, people will be able to see us talking about a Crucible Guard CIDs. But no, I think that Ret came out of the CID in a good spot. I don't feel like they got certain things crammed down their throats. I'd like to see the Wardens be cool because I think Retribution's always wanted a unit like that, but just haven't quite gotten it yet.
Yeah, they're just like they're a 13-17 set defense, and like they have unyielding, but like the meta is not very hospitable to infantry these days, and medium-based infantry, like if you have an arm buff like Gorshade, you can give them Dauntless Resolve, so now all of a sudden like they're arm 22 against melee, which is respectable. But with all these damage swings floating around, it's just like...
Yeah, the game's pretty lethal, and when there's... when Man-O-War have a problem surviving, then anything even slightly less than them is just going to be mulched.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think they're bad. Like, they still have crit amputate if they kept it. So, like, it's just, they could randomly screw over a Hordes player, but you're playing Hordes, so you got used to it.
Well, and with you mentioning Gorshade 4, you still, like, having a medium infantry unit to revive is still pretty valuable. I mean, we've been seeing that with Desters already, where it's like you get a big value unit where revive becomes really good, and then him having all of his buffs for them make them even better too. So it'll be interesting to see how they shake out, but in general I think that Retribution definitely came out better than what they went in at.
Well, yeah, like I don't think there's been a CID for a long time where you could argue stuff came out worse. I mean, Rep might have the cake. Like, talking about the Forges CID is like taboo. Like, we don't talk about that. But I guess if we're gonna keep going on this, my one complaint from the CID is that it didn't really fix... Like, I like all the infantry changes, and like I'm excited to play them, and the Jag changes are so nice. It still feels like an afterthought to Tridents. Like, even like when I'm still building 75-point lists, the first thing I do is like, okay, double Tridents. Now I'll put in the unit of Ryovas. Now I'll take a couple Manticores. Like, unless I'm playing in Forges.
You're trying to support the Tridents and not really trying to keep the main focus on those infantry units that you're putting in.
Yep. But I guess we can start a little rumor mill here. I don't know if you noticed it in the CID how
the power token business.
Yeah, the power tokens. How the Trans now have power token 1. PP said the Stormstriders are staying power token D3, but they did not confirm if the Trident was staying D3, because like they said in that sentence, like the sentence before, they're like, okay, Trident and Stormstrider will be changing their abilities to have brackets as well. And then they're like, for example, Stormstrider will have power token D3.
Well, and that's the interesting conversation about that one is that what do you do to the Trident, right? Because if it's D3 right now, so 100% it can't be 3, or else that would just be, nothing changes and it just gets amazingly better and becomes the thing in every ret list, right?
It already is.
But this like just kind of like plants it into a concrete post, right? But if you put it down to 1, it's still really good, but I don't know if it's amazing, because it's going to take 2 turns before it connects with anyone. You'll have 2 tokens, and that's fine, and then you'll just be trickling them in as the game goes. So if you make it 2, I think that's also pushing it over the edge, because it becomes essentially consistently better than what it was before.
Yeah, and like it might not be changing. Like, it could have just been a weird verbiage on their part of not saying like Stormstrider and Trident are going D3 brackets.
Yeah,
like it could easily just still be going D3, because if it goes 1, that would, in my opinion, would be a pretty heavy nerf, because like it has other abilities. Like, people forget.
Like, it's got force barrier, right? And then it can like
pseudo TK.
What's the? I'm sorry, it's the slipstream.
Yep, the slipstream ability. So like, if it gets 1, that's a pretty heavy-handed nerf. But like, it could just be staying D3. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, like it could have just been like you said, an afterthought where they were like, maybe it was pointed. Instead, they didn't want to say something like, well, the change in this CID is going to affect something in the previous CID that probably could have just changed there. But they decided to say something about the Stormstrider because nobody really thinks about it that much unless you're playing against Striker 1. Like the Storm Strider just doesn't pop into people's heads as like the thing like that gets power tokens. Not anymore at least.
Yeah, I mean, before this, there was 2 models. Trident would, of course, be the number 1. And now I guess with Signar, Nemo has replaced a few Storm Striders in lists, so...
Yeah, for sure. So you don't... the Storm Striders are still there, but I think we're toilet bowling into power token talk. But overall, I think both these lists were really... interesting. I think it really showcased what Thyron can do in a very centralized scenario. And it's kind of funny because I think that both these casters are really tilted pretty far on the power scale in Brawlmachine. So watching them come into one another where it's like the game, at least from my perspective, felt like it was on a razor's edge because I kept making bad decisions. But if I had made the right ones, it would have been interesting to see how this played out. Yeah,
like if you kept Dozer and Smigg back, I'm just not sure what I'd do. Like, if he's constantly not... Like, if he's staying out of my 10-inch charge threat of a Manticore, like, and he's just shooting every single turn, like, eventually he's going to get through. Like, rate of fire 3 pseudo on him is so ridiculously good.
Yeah, and like we had said, if he misses, he functionally does better.
Yep, because, I mean, he loses 4 POW, but he gets boosted, so it's kind of like a 50-50 wash.
Yeah, it's a swing, but...
But then it's just, like, so good.
Yeah.